ahead.
All right.
Art,
Yes, Rick.
see a bright light.
Yes. So good afternoon. It looks like most of you have joined either fully or partially onto the Zoom technology. I'm excited about this opportunity. I hope you have a good experience with it. I know that we're going to have Rick and Keith go over a demonstration today with it. I believe also Kimberly and Carson will be speaking a little bit about the Zoom technology as well. There's 4 items on the agenda. Those are 2 of them. The other one will be the AR award. And then we'll also talk a little bit about Max Knowledge and the in-service training. So those are the 4 items they have today. We'll worry about attendance once Sarah starts speaking about Max Knowledge. So without any further ado, oh, by the way, Antoine, I like your haircut. Anyway, I would, let's go ahead and do the AR award, and I'm going to turn the time over to Sherry to go over who won the award this time around. Sherry.
Thank you. As you guys know, it is a really hard decision. We have fantastic instructors here. Big decision every month as to who we're going to pick. This month we've chosen an instructor who is fairly new, but she has done an excellent job. She's worked with our PLFT students, which everybody knows. Our PLFT is our new course for all the new students to enter, and those students tend to be high needs because they're just learning the online environment as well as the classroom. And she's had some personal issues this month, and I offered to take over her class, and she said absolutely not. She loves our students enough that she wanted to stay with them, and they make everything better. So I am so impressed and so excited to have her as a member of our team. I don't know if she's on yet. I haven't seen, but the winner of this month is Charlotte Scott.
Congratulations.
Very good.
Yay. I don't know if she's here or not yet. I don't know how to hit the button. Carson, is she here?
Oh, pick another name.
Yeah, go to the next one.
I will be happy to share it with her. I know she had some doctor's stuff this afternoon, so I will share it with her.
You're going to accept it on her behalf and thank the Academy.
I will accept it on her behalf.
All right, well, perfect. Congratulations to Charlotte on winning the AR award. And thanks, Sherry, for going ahead and doing that, that bit for her. So let's move on to in-service Max Knowledge. Sarah, would you take over?
Okay, can everybody hear me all right?
Yep, I can hear you.
All right.
Yes.
So Tanya, I know, has sent out reminder emails to everyone, but just to reiterate, on that spreadsheet that she emailed out, it listed what was needed to complete your professional development and Max Knowledge requirement for the year, and those do need to be completed for you to remain compliant with us. So if you have any questions on that spreadsheet, just send Tanya and I an email. I'm not going to read through who owes what, but the Max Knowledge is due by the 444 meeting for the November term. So you still have several weeks to get that completed and turned in, but that should be it. Let me take just a minute. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sarah, this is Rick. I just want to make one note. Some of my teachers were calling and saying, it says I haven't done any. And I said, no, the 0 means you don't have any left to do. So they were reading it backwards.
Correct.
There's a 0.
Yeah, the spreadsheet shows what you owe, not what you've completed.
Right.
Thanks. Real quick, I just want to call out the names that I'm not seeing on the screen. There's a few phone numbers on there that don't have a name, so I just want to make sure we don't miss anybody. If you are here, just holler after I read the list. Jennifer Croton, Tracy Lee, Richard McElroy, Brooke Moore, Davy A. Neal, Esther Rousseau, Gina Sanchez.
Brooke just got in. I can see her.
Brooke is on. Okay.
She just got in. I can see her.
Davy A is on. I just didn't know how to add my name.
Okay.
And I don't see Keith, but I know he's presenting today. Can everyone please mute your phone, everyone?
Keith will be, I just talked to Keith and he was stuck in traffic and he was going to be on as soon as, it was just a bad timing thing. He will be here soon.
Okay. Thank you.
And Rick McElroy had an overlapping appointment, but he will be on as soon as he's done with that.
Okay.
And Esther Russo is here.
Okay. Hi, Esther. And James, I think I saw that was you with James' iPhone. James Fountain. Yeah, that's you. Okay. Thank you.
All right, so you've got everything you need for right now, Sarah?
Yes, I'll just keep looking at the role and I'll send an email to anybody I'm missing.
All right, perfect. So with that being said, let's turn the time over to Kimberly and Carson.
Hello, team. Just a quick update on the courses. I'm currently halfway through setting dates for the courses. We have approximately 68 courses running for the November term. So just getting the new courses. I have a few more new courses to build, and then I'm setting dates for all the current courses. So you should see your courses by Sunday. Also, the peer reviews are ready. You should see your course that you are peer reviewing on your My Course listing. So as of yesterday, you can go ahead and start your peer reviews. Are there any questions? Well, that's all that I have for you guys. Thanks. Yes?
All right. So
I have one
Go ahead, ask your question.
question. If I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Question, if I can. So this is Cassandra, and
Cassandra, you are
this is the
fading in and
first time I'm
out.
Yeah, we're not hearing Cassandra.
Cassandra, maybe you can type your question in the chat room because we're not hearing you on the audio very well.
Let's see. If can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, I got off the Wi-Fi. It's my first time doing the peer reviews, and I was looking on the instructor resources. But is there any other like advice or anything like that that I should kind of know about?
Don't kill
Could one of the
yourself.
PDs help? Could one of the PDs help her with that? Yeah.
Yeah, we're just looking for a quick, look through to see if they have those requirements. You're not giving them a formal review, but simply a review of, yeah, I see they did that. They did that. They did that. They did that. You're just going through a checklist, basically.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
All right, Carson.
all right. Hey, everybody. Nice to see some of your faces, and don't feel any pressure to start your video feed. Just wanted to throw it out there. All right. A few quick items. So we're using Zoom, as Art had mentioned. I just wanted to really quickly take you through some of the features. I'm sure most of you have figured them out, but just to make sure that everyone's on the same page, all the icons well, most of the icons are on the bottom. So if you go left to right, you've got your audio options where you can mute. So if you're not speaking, definitely good practice to mute yourself. Just so we don't get any background noise. Then you also have an option to stop your video as well, just to the right of that. After that, you can see the chat and even share a screen. Please, no one share their screen unless they're told to, but there is that option. If you do have questions that you want to ask in the chat, go ahead and do that. Both Kimberly and myself are joint hosting the meeting, so either of us have that capability. And then on the upper right corner, you have different views that you can change to. There's a speaker view as well as a gallery view. So the speaker view will highlight the individual in a larger picture as they're speaking, whereas the gallery view gives you kind of more of the Brady Bunch look, with everyone having equally sized images. And then you can move back and forth between the pages of participants. You should see an arrow to the left and an arrow to the right. I believe if you're on a device, you swipe to the left or right. And of course, if you are on a device and you do want to connect to the video meeting, just make sure you download the Zoom app. So that's the quick and short of that. All right, I'm going to actually share my screen just for a moment and show you some of the new features that have been added specifically to the Instructor Resource Center. So last 444, we asked those individuals, or we asked you, and it looks like someone's playing with the whiteboard. Yeah, you can definitely color all over the screen. It's kind of fun. But in the Instructor Resource Center, we've added a few things. We got quite a bit of feedback from the last 404, so I just wanted to show you what we've added so far. The first one is the Campus View training, number 14 currently. This was actually from Deidre Hopkins. We added a part 5, which is assigning tasks. She brought that up in the last 444, which is if you need help with a student, please assign a task to her so that she can reach out. And this part 5 of the Campus View training in the Instructor Resource Center will show you how to assign a task to academics so that they can help with that individual. The second item is the torch. This is number 25. This was a company-wide announcement, and the torch is how we can recognize each other. All of the information is right in this area here. You can click on this link. You can look up certain individuals and award them torches of gratitude, a job well done, various different torches that you can award to people you work with here in Vista College. So we've added that into the IRC also. Another request, and this one was actually from Peggy Jones, if I remember right, was meeting notes and the in-service PowerPoints, and where can we access those? So you'll notice that on number 23 in the Instructor Resource Center, we've added all of the in-service topics. The first one was in January with art up to the last 444. So we'll continue to accumulate the in-service information, PowerPoints, so you guys can go back to them. And then the meeting notes that are usually taken by Sarah and Tanya, we'll add those as well, so that you can go back and look at those items. So that was definitely a great suggestion by Peggy. And then the last one, guys, was the campus directory. Now, we've had the campus directory for a little while, but what was new, and I believe Dan Jones mentioned this one, is distribution lists by department. So if you're unsure of who is in, what office or team of individuals, these are all of the distribution lists, like for financial aid, for business office, and etc. Registrar, if you don't know who the registrar is, for example, you can just send it to these distribution lists, and it emails the entire team so that they can get on top of it, and you don't have to try to figure out who is what and what their email address is. So again, that's like the campus directory number 13 in the IRC. So that's it for the Instructor Resource Center. The one thing I wanted to show you guys as well is Alice. I don't know if you guys are too familiar with the bottom support column of the LMS, but there's a link called Ask Alice. Right now it's pretty plain Jane. You click on it, you ask, the students will ask certain FAQ questions and it gives them information. What we're doing is we've teamed up with the web design department, and we're beefing that up, making it more interesting. And so here's a little preview of what it will look like. And we do have a little bit more work to do on it, but it's going to be a lot more visually appealing, more fun to use, and some different effects that will be associated with Alice and using Alice. So for those of you not familiar with it, when students ask questions to Alice that she doesn't know, we go in on the back end and teach her how to answer those questions. So her database is always growing. So it's kind of an artificial intelligence character. That will go live here shortly, and will look more like this and be more fun to use. And anyway, that's all of the announcements that I have, unless you guys have any questions. All right.
And I just wanted to add something about Alice. We asked you guys to send questions, frequently asked questions from students. As you get those questions and ideas, I just want to remind you to send Carson and I those questions so that we can continue to build Alice's database.
Yeah, great point, Kimberly. Any other questions?
Can't we type those questions?
It's for me.
Okay. Carson, this is Dan Ferentz. I'm logged in on an iPad and I don't see any chat icon.
All right, let's see. It would be toward the bottom center, Dan. I haven't tested this on a tablet yet, so I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, that's okay. We don't need to take time.
Yeah.
I just thought maybe iPads were discouraged.
No, they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be discouraged. I'll get back with you on that one, Dan. I'll look into it, okay?
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Dan, I'm on an iPhone, and if you click in the center of your screen, then the menu comes up the bottom, and it's on that menu. See if that works. Because I switched from my computer to an iPhone, and that's how you do it.
I'm on my iPhone. It just came up automatically, so I don't know. As long as you got the app downloaded.
Yeah, just kind of look at it, guys. Whatever feedback you have for us for Zoom or issues you ran into, please email us so we can kind of take a look at it and see how we can make these fixes. Last thing I want to mention before we turn it back over to Art is this session is being recorded, and we will record these in the future and add them to the IRC so that you guys can go back and watch them, and also to help Tanya and Sarah with meeting minutes. So I just wanted to make you aware of that this is being recorded. All right, back to you, Art.
Wait, Carson, I have a question. This is Rick. I have a question about Ask Alice.
Yeah, sure.
If we type our own questions in there and she says, I'm thinking about that, do those questions go to you guys, or do we need to send those questions separately?
They do go to us because it is all stored. But if you have a moment, if you want to email them directly, we can build it a little bit faster. So I would recommend, just
one night I was just typing in every question I can think of.
Okay, awesome.
Hey, Carson, with Alice, as instructors, do we have access to, or are we going to get like a listing of what students are actually questioning that maybe we could probably chime in and try to understand what's actually going on with some of the students? How can instructors utilize?
Yeah, that's a good question, Mark. Unfortunately, no, and the reason is it's somewhat anonymous. It doesn't show the student's name. It assigns them kind of like a user number. So there is no way to tell who's asking what question.
I guess, is it possible? Here's what I'm thinking. And I apologize about my background. I'm thinking if they are asking questions to Alice, as faculty, will we have access to those questions, or will some of those questions be forwarded to our department head to where it can be known of this is what's going on with our students? Maybe a class is too difficult, or maybe an instructor is not doing what they're supposed to do. Say it to us, or how exactly is Alice supposed to, what is exactly it doing? Is it just a database, or what?
It's more of a database for frequently asked questions for students. What you're asking for, Mark, is the end of term surveys do most of what you're asking. What did you think of the instructor of the course? That's more end of term survey type stuff. But we could definitely take a look to see what the commonly asked questions or topics are and make a list. We could do that.
Yeah, this is Ann. I was just going to add to that what Mark is saying. If we knew what they're asking on a regular basis, and we knew the answers, then we could integrate that into our Hello discussion to make sure we tap these common questions, and Alice won't be used as often, and we can be more interactive and communicative.
Yeah, we can put something like that together. And there will be more to come on this as well. We'll keep you guys posted.
Yeah, like I was saying, and that's, you made up another good point. Like every quarter, of course, but we can kind of see what some of the hot topics are, so that we as instructors can learn from it. We don't have to address the student specifically. We can actually know this is a hot topic, and we can kind of be aware. But that's just my point. I just thought it might be something that would be beneficial for for what I'm thinking. But thank you. I'm doing a lot for all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll keep you posted on that, Mark. All right, Art, back to you.
All right, thanks, Carson. Great questions, great dialogue. Let's continue that with, as we move over to, looks like I saw Keith's picture someplace on here. We'll turn the rest of the time over to Keith and Rick.
And I will turn my portion over to Keith.
Great. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll try to see if this works. We tested it out yesterday. And we'll share the desktop, and hopefully everyone can see the presentation. Can everyone see
This is Brooke. I can see it.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Great. So today's presentation really stemmed from some research and some things that I do on the side. I currently work for an agency within the Department of Defense, and what we try to do, I think, is very similar to the sports world, which is very similar to the educational world, and that is we try to maximize our overall students, athletes, and employees as they go forward. And in that, you kind of have to take degrees of it and say, am I doing good, am I doing great, or am I an elite at what I do? So the intent of this briefing is really to give some background into what we're looking at from a elite status. And there's two particular categories that we'll talk about as far as process for interactions. And from there, we'll kind of get into some ERO and some other processes of looking at ourselves and saying, am I really elite at what I do? And what processes have I set up so that I can either look at myself and say, here's where I need to improve, or continue on where I'm going.
Hey, Keith,
Yes.
Before you continue, you may want to hit your, go over to a couple more icons right there. There you go.
Okay, great. So with that, becoming elite. And this was, I thought, was a pretty good quote, and we use it now within my overall department. Good leaders provide quotes and ask that you take something away from it. Above average leaders bring in speakers and relate to a story that's in your life or in their life. Elite leaders provide a process that sets out what you really need to do. And I don't think that providing a quote is bad. You can always link that to things, and bringing in speakers is always good too as well. But the concern with those two overall is that you're really, there can be different points that are takeaways from that. So if we provided a student with a quote that's supposed to be inspirational, they may see it differently. If somebody speaks to us, and there may be different perceptions of what they've actually said and takeaways. But a process is usually set. There's A, B, C, and D of what you do going forward. And that's how you become elite. And I'll reference again a couple sports things, and what we like to do in my overall agency is look at sports, specifically again, from what are they doing really good that we can take away. And if you kind of reference, born and raised in Cleveland, admittedly, so other sports teams do things a lot better than Cleveland. But if you hear the New England Patriot way, it's the Patriot way. Bill Belichick is able to churn out people and become elite when other people can't do it. Same is said for San Antonio Spurs. What they do with their athletes to get the maximum potential from them is something that's very unique to them. And that's something I think that the teachers do. And because of processes, though, you have particular processes of why you're elite. So the question is today, what can we do as far as a process that can achieve our goals and help our interactions with our students? So with that, there is a process for interactions which we look at, and what we've done, at least from, again, within the Department of Defense, is we've broken it into these categories on the left here, where you have really the fact, analysis, jurisdiction, and function. I'd like you to consider for our discussions going forward that this will be the high ground. The value and ability is going to be a middle ground, and then the effect, status, and morality are going to be the in the water, where you're going to be treading going forward. And with that, those are the 9 overall categories where every interaction, we have not found an interaction that actually does not fit into one of these categories. So the process really then is, how am I absorbing or listening to people talking to me that I can then say I'm on high ground, middle ground, or in the water with this person going forward. So let's talk a little bit about the high ground. So the high ground is factual, something that actually exists in a real truth. So these are pretty clean and clear of a fact. There is no question about it. Analysis is the process that you're looking at something. You're looking at features and maybe making small judgments, but you're not making large judgments. Jurisdiction, you're talking about power, authority, and control. Do I have the right to do this? Am I able to do this? And function is really, is it a function of what you're supposed to be doing? Should a student be doing their homework? Should they be overall, posting to the boards? That's a function of what they do. And in these interactions, when you hear somebody talking to you or emailing or communicating to you, if they're in these 4 categories, you're on high ground with that person. That relationship is good, and that there is some trust there that you're speaking back and forth, and you're on good ground. If we move to the middle ground, there's 2 here of value, so worth, merit, and that's really the value portion of are they valued in what they do. And then ability, you're talking about somebody's competency. So are they good at what they do? Do they have the proper skills and trainings and things like that? Now this overall in this process, when you look at the middle ground, you're going to be kind of shaky. If somebody says, is this really worth it? Okay, now you've put a value on what I'm doing currently. I need to bring you back up to the high ground where we're talking about fact, analysis, and function. Here's where you told me you were trying to get to as a function. The fact is here is the class and the class work. If they're talking about their ability, again, you want to bring them back up to the high ground. We provide you the skills and training so that you can actually work towards, your power and authority, or your position and your function. So it's bringing people up to your high ground all the time and analyzing what they have.
Keith, can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
On the middle ground, is that a function of me as the instructor saying a positive feedback, that's doing really well, essentially appealing to their emotion that they've been accepted and that they're progressing? Or is that a good place to start? And then when I tell them that they have a 79, is that a fact? I mean, how's that?
Yeah. So again, the middle ground is kind of, you can be in the middle ground on some things, right? When you have like the merit or the grade of someone, like that's the value of the course that you have. So that's very acceptable as far as where you're currently at. Now, again, it's some of it is practice and tone. If you feel as though they're talking about their worth or merit in the class that's negative, then you want to bring them up to the high ground. The fact is here, the analysis that I have is that you haven't, the analysis you haven't posted in 2 weeks. Your grade or the value of the course is a C currently, but I'm going to bring you back up, to go back to the high ground. So it's a yellow light, right? You should be cautious when you're in here. You should be trying to go to green, but sometimes you have to stay in yellow.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions so far? Oh, okay. So then the water. When do you know you're in trouble going forward? Affect, status, and morality. So really their inward disposition of feeling of how they're really living their life. If they're talking about they feel bad for this course and they're bringing other stuff in, you got to bring them back up to get to that middle and high ground. And you may have to take steps to get there, but really the process is analyzing their first overall communications with you. Are they talking about their feelings? Do they have, what they're doing? And we'll go over some examples here. Same with status. Do I feel as though I have a status or I don't have status here in my disposition or feeling about who I am? And morality really is, you get into your ethical pieces, and that's way in the swamp, as we call it, where you want to bring that process back up and not talk about the distinction of ethical issues if they're really challenging that. So what I'd like to do is then talk about how to prepare in this process of these overall 3 levels. And what we use is kind of 2 different techniques. Those techniques are really one, script development. So how we actually look at this is you don't come to the overall conversation without kind of having to go through the process and know exactly how you're going to respond. If you're going in there and just saying like, this is new to me too, and I don't know, how to react to you, you lose confidence, you lose trust, you lose a lot of things that go on. So what we train our managers to do is script it out. Script a student telling you, I hate this class. All right, what do you say to that? What steps could they go? And we actually practice this back and forth of somebody saying like, I don't feel that this is a worthy project. Okay, you're kind of putting a negative value on this. Tell me the facts that don't get you to this project. What's your analysis? And get them talking to you on the high ground and not in the middle and low ground. So scripts are very valuable to us in a process to practice how we kind of do that. And that's what we call coming prepared. In addition to that, we do some ERO, which I'll get into. And then we really say be resilient. Be a tennis ball, not an egg. An egg cracks. An egg doesn't bounce back. A student may come to you and say something, and you know what? Maybe you'd never scripted it for it before. So you've got a challenge there. Be resilient and come back. So what I'd like to do now, in that kind of quick fashion, to get some participation as well, I'm going to say some things. I'm going to go back a couple slides and put this up here. And then I'd like, you can just volunteer or just kind of speak out. Tell me where this statement falls. And this is, again, the practice of where's a person at when they say this. And if there's questions afterwards, I'll kind of go in it because I'm going to kind of shotgun this and we can talk about it afterwards. But tell me what it is. We have the kind of training that we go through, and I'll explain maybe at a later time because I think that might bog us down if we get too far in the weeds here. But here's the practice of this. So if you heard keep your place, where's keep your place at?
Middle.
Status. You're talking about status to that person. So if they say keep your place, they're talking to you and you're saying, all right, hold on, I'm in the water. I need to talk about the facts of this overall piece. At least you tried.
Wait a minute. Can you go back to keep your place? What do you mean by that exactly? I'm sorry.
Keep your place, your status. You shouldn't be doing this overall job. Keep your place and know your responsibility.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. So let's go. At least you tried. At least I tried doing it.
Middle ground.
Ability, yeah, you're in the middle ground, right? I'm talking about my ability. At least you tried, or at least I tried. So I'm in the yellow zone here. So the process is I'm going to try to get to that high ground and ask questions around fact, analysis, jurisdiction, and function. What if a student said, "I don't trust you"?
Water.
Yeah, you're in the water, and you're in the morality. The moral of this, there's a moral and ethical piece of this, that they don't trust you. So you're all the way down in the swamp of where you're at. What if they said, "I know my opinion is not important to you," or "I know my opinion is not important to my teacher"?
Middle ground.
You're in
Middle.
status, right? Because you're saying, we know our opinion is unimportant to management. You're talking a level of a teacher to what a student is saying. So you're talking status. My opinion is not important to you as a teacher. There's a status difference there. So you're in the water. Let's say, "I guess this is adequate."
Ability.
Analysis, high ground.
It's going to be value.
Value.
It's going to be value. Yep. They're putting a value on that. What if they kind of come back and say, I've got an 85 on this exam, and I'm happy with that.
High.
Fact. You're talking a direct fact. That's very acceptable, and again, if they have a question about it, you can ask their question, but they're really in the factual piece of that. So you kind of get the gist here of, once a student or anyone, we can use this in our daily lives, we can use this in any other job. When somebody's communicating to you, it really is good practice to say, high ground, middle ground, water. What are they telling me? And should I bring this back up or not? And that is going to get you to elite status, because you're going to know where you stand with that person, what their overall position is, and then you know what you need to attack. And then whether that's they're in the water, bring them back to middle ground and high ground, or go right up to high ground and say, I need to step you back into the factual and analysis piece of this, putting too much on the status of me as a teacher. What else is there? So that's kind of our process for interactions at a good level for any overall comments or communications that we receive. So I'll pause there and say, questions about that. Okay. Well, let's go on to kind of using scripts and kind of talking a little bit about leadership. So what I'll say here is that you have an ERO, right? So what's our process? That's what we need to do. We have an event, a response, and then an outcome to almost everything that we do in interactions. And again, I'll tie this to students. So leadership of a teacher isn't the difference maker. Or isn't a difference maker. It is the difference maker. We have influencing and control, and have to gain the trust of our students. And we have to look at that in a process of what events are happening and what response do I want to receive back from this student. And then you analyze your outcome that you have. And part of that links to the overall scripting and response. Part of that is a material look as far as what are the classroom materials. So the question here is, how are we earning the trust of our students? And how do we get to that point? We really have to think to ourselves, and again, part of this is takeaway, exactly what is it that I'm after every day? And I'm going to pause here and say, what we find in the elite level overall athletes, elite level executives, and other people that we look at, they're looking every day at what they have. Sometimes they're trying to get 1% better each week. Now, 1% doesn't seem like a much in a week, but if you do add it up over the year, you become 52% better at something if you focus on it. So the question of elite is, what is the process and what am I after every day? Am I getting better at it? Am I grading myself on it? So building trust. There's kind of three things of trust that are looked at. And if you don't have one, you cannot make up for it. So when you're looking at your students, you're looking at the character of what you're presenting and your interactions. Do you have trust with them? Trust is earned. So you really have to do that with getting the repeated experience with the student and the interactions. I know last time we said you have to make phone calls. You have to interact. It can't just be an overall static representation sometimes if you want to gain their full trust. Competence, showing them that you know exactly what you're doing too as well. I know I'm teaching an Excel course right now. I think seeing the overall technical expertise gains the competence, and again, that builds the trust that you have. And then you have the connection kind of portion of this. Again, caring and listening. Last time we talked about caring and listening, of letting that student know you care about them. If they have interactions that are outside of the school that may impact them, stopping and caring for them gains so much trust. One thing that seems odd, but one of the biggest surveys that we've done for DoD employees and what gains the most trust, number 2 on the list is actually attending a funeral of a family or friend of the member. You gain trust by going to the funeral and actually just being there for the person or just seeing them there. And that's the interactions of, how can I gain the trust of a student? Calling them, setting up meeting times, continually working with them, letting them know I care. It has nothing to do with the grade at times, but these are the three pieces of trust going forward. So when you say, you have these EROs, you don't control everything, but you do control sometimes the outcome, right? Indirectly or directly. So you have to state them as kind of, what are your big events and big overall outcomes that require your responses? So we all have these events that come up. What am I doing to say, here's the event, what is the outcome that I want? So those are the 2 outside factors that you need to look at, and then say, what response do I need to give? And these are very, very kind of clean things that we can look at and say, I wanted this outcome, I knew this event was coming, how did I respond and what did I really look at? And those are, again, almost for everything that we do as event and an outcome, you can say, how did I respond to that? I responded too quickly. I should have done some analysis. I should have scripted this out better to talk to that student or to talk to somebody else. If you look at the outside edges of this, and we kind of look at this as a field goal, you kind of put it in your mind of the left-hand side is overreacting, the right-hand side is underreacting. So if you look at that in your response, you want to go down the middle. And sometimes you have to think to yourself, I really want to overreact to this. I want to respond and tell the student, this is the 3rd week in a row you haven't posted an assignment. Why, what do you think you're doing? But that's not the outcome I want. So I have to respond somewhere in the middle and think, let me script this out. Let me be elite here. I want to be the best that I can, and that takes time to script it and really focus on the outcome that I want to do. So again, training for these challenges, we all rise and fall. There's going to be roller coasters up and down. So what we really, really try to build in our skill sets, in our managers and in our staff, are to prepare for those R factors and experiences. Under pressure is when the most critical times where you might not kick that field goal. It's the pressure factor that you see that might overall influence you to go left or right, and that outcome, the outcome itself could be connected. And in that connection, you may have to have an overabundance of responses versus if you took the time to really focus on the one. So these are individual pieces that we look at, and that's why we connect this to our overall scripting and how somebody's communicating to me. If I immediately know that I'm in the water with someone, my responses and my options close down very quickly to, I want to get them into the high water or into the high ground. How do I get them to the high ground? It's very clean and easy to say, here's my response going back. And in the critical times, knowing that and reacting quickly, I think is just paramount to success. So let's talk about the R factors, right? So the response factors that you may have, and how to work with them. So press pause. Really think about it. As I said before, you don't want to be just reacting and just kicking the football and kind of just not have a purpose for what you're doing. Second, get your mind right. Focus on how you kind of get the positive to negative, not overreacting. How are you going to, get above and below the line? And we'll talk about the line here in a second. But how are you going to be above the line and be successful and be overall cognizant of what you want to do? Third, stepping up. Really think about the situation, the consequences, understand what you need to do. And really, it does go back to the Patriot way and to, San Antonio, do your job. You can only do your job for success. You may have multiple potential outcomes, but your response is clean and clear of what you wanted to get the outcome. The outcome may change, but you can go back and look and say, I stepped up and understood the situation. So then we get into adjusting and adapting. So things might not go well as a scripted overall response to a student. That's where you have to have those multiple overall scripts to go down. We practice kind of in the DoD having an employee that's just not happy. And they just give you every excuse why they're not going to come to work, why they don't understand their job, how they want to just be on leave and not worry about stuff. We're like, okay, so here's what we're going to have to talk about. We have to talk about your position and what you do. And we're very successful at this. Then we try to make a difference with the ownership. So you have to own what you do. And then you got to build that skill set. And that's really back to the responses that you're doing. Are you looking at what you have? Are you going back and getting better at this going forward? And like it says right there, talent is a gift, greatness is a choice. Being elite does take some tough skin here of saying, I was not good at this. Tell me where I was wrong, and looking back and saying, here's where I would have changed things. You have to have that to be better. If you're too soft-skinned in this, you'll continue to have the same response and the same outcomes. And that's where we look and say, I didn't get the outcome. I was unsuccessful at what I did, but I own it. And if I own it, then I can change it. Okay, so then what we talked about, managing the lines, right? Above the line, when we take all this into account, our EROs, above the line, intentional, purpose, skillful, that is above the line. Below the line, impulsive, autopilot, resistant. If you're taking these interactions, and it does take a lot of practice, but if you're taking these overall kind of things and utilizing them in almost everything you do, I know exactly where I stand with folks of how where I'm at in the water or high ground. I know exactly how I should respond. I'm taking into account the outcomes that I want, whether it be a student, an employee, or even from, my kids. And then I'm going to stay above the line and be intentional and purposeful and try to use my skills to be that, to get the outcome where I'm at. If I'm below the line, my chances for my outcome that I desire are very slim. Because again, I'm not controlling the response, so I'm not controlling the outcome or influencing the outcome going forward. So it's always stay above the line and always really go to what response is going to get me my outcome. And then let's just talk about results. When we talk about players or, we talk about students, they're a reflection of the culture you create. You own that. So if you're seeing overall a culture, which is, again, a larger group, a larger set, there can be, outliers there, but you control the culture that you have. And the foundation is really the core beliefs that we all have. And that's really, it's not a quote, it's not somebody speaking to you. Core beliefs are the heart of what you have. And that's what you try to get to and show going forward. And culture, again, is just what you lead when no one is watching. Are you successful at what you do in your culture? It's reflective of what you are. And if you don't have a good culture, then again, go back to owning it, looking at it. What metrics can you have? What overall results do you want to see or outcomes? And then how are you actually entering in to get that? And that's really, it's critical. We have to be honest with ourselves. If you just go on autopilot, you're below the line and you do not get the outcomes you desire. So with that, I went through that kind of quickly, but I also wanted to say, I mean, I hope this spurs on either white papers or group discussions of what are the best processes at its core for online teaching. And if there's a process and a response that are consistent, then we should all kind of see that as best practices. If there's something that doesn't work, it's a lesson learned. I thought last time was great of calls are more successful than anything else. Okay, so that's a response or a tool that I want to use, but what response am I going to have? Well, I need to work on my scripts. And once I talk with them, it really gets into do they trust me or not? Do they understand that my skill sets, that I'm good in what I do? And I'll try to get to the slide here. And then really then the connection. Can I build personal trust? So do I have character, competence, and connection with the student upon my call? And all of this kind of does spider web together, right? The spider web of how does the student interact with me? I can kind of say what ground I'm on. Do I really need to work on character, competence, or connection? And then I go into my process, event, response, outcome on the two outsides. Event, what do I have to do? I'm going to call them. The outcome, I would need them to post an overall assignment. What's my response in between? And hopefully they trust me and my character to kind of lead them along the way. So with that, that's kind of, again, I think of eliteness. That's the process, right? We present processes to become elite. That's what we use in the Department of Defense to be better. This is used in industry, and this is used in athletics as well. So again, any questions or comments that we can kind of go forward with, because I see this as progressive. Nothing? Okay. Well, if there's any questions, I'll turn it back over to Art. That's my presentation for today.
No, actually, Keith, thank you very much. I just sent on the chat my favorite lines, which is, we cannot control anyone else, but we can control our response to the situation. Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite lines to teach people. And that's basically what you talked about.
Yep.
Thank you.
Keith, excellent presentation. I really enjoyed it. One of the things I've learned along those same lines, Ann, is the notion that we don't control events, but we do control the interpretation of those events. I don't know if we control outcomes at any time or in any situation, but I am absolutely sure that we control our interpretation. So it's really the way you look at it at the end of the day. But I thought that E plus R equaling outcomes was very interesting. I think also one of the things that at the end of the day that we want to be able to do with this technology, with this presentation, is become elite. If I'm hearing you correctly, Keith. Yeah, I think this is a good process to be able to follow to get to that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions for Keith before we look to close the meeting?
No question, but excellent job.
Great job. Thank you.
Great.
Yes, excellent job, Keith. Well, I want to thank Keith for putting on this presentation. Thank you, Sherry, for introducing our AR Award winner. And Kimberly and Carson, thank you for your participation, and thank you, Sarah, for taking on the Max Knowledge piece. If there are no further questions, then I will bid you a great evening. I really appreciate your leadership, and if there's anything I can help you with, don't hesitate to give me a call or send me an email. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Have a great night, guys.
See everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.